All right, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like we are live. What is good? What is good? What is good, ladies and gentlemen? Of course, you know who I be. Good Dr. Mike TV. Back again with another interesting topic for a great live show. I am glad that I am joined by my co-host for the evening, my man Mike over at Mike's Philippines Journey. Introduce yourself for anybody who may not be aware, even though I'm pretty sure it's just a formality thing. Go ahead and go for it, man.
Well, yeah, I'm sure a lot of people don't know who I am, but anyways, my name is Mike. I have a couple YouTube channels. This one mainly the Mike's Philippine Journey, just sharing my experience in the Philippines, just talking about relationships, things to do in the Philippines that's fun. But that's pretty much it, man.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. We've been kind of stewing on this one for about a week now. This particular topic of conversation, but this is not something that is unfamiliar to us as foreign men that have actually lived in the Philippines long term. All right. So today, ladies and gentlemen, the topic is going to be titled, "Why do Filipinas say that Filipino men are very feminine in nature?" Now, I'm not going to say that this represents all the men in the country. Of course, that is not true. We're not going to generalize it. But what we will do is kind of do a deep dive into the interesting concepts or things that we've probably heard from our own personal experiences, as well as things that others have said about the representation of some Filipino men. Now, before we get into it, let me just drop this quick knowledge of how this particular topic came to be. I did a video probably a month or so ago about some of the characteristics that some Filipinos find to be, you know, or characteristics or traits that they find in foreign men. And one of the things that I actually mentioned was confidence and masculinity as some of the main reasons that some Filipinos find themselves attracted to foreign men. Again, agree to disagree, however you slice it. But as we look in a deep dive and we go into different areas or aspects of this particular topic of conversation, what you'll begin to notice is that some of the traits that they find in foreign men are things that they look for because they're not as common of a trait in their own local men, i.e., there's this somewhat feminine aspect about some of the guys in the country that, whether it's a turn on or a turn off, it's just something that you'll notice if you're around it long enough. Now, Mike, I'm gonna go ahead and let you set the foundation because I kind of feel like I work best off of where you're coming from, and let's go ahead and see where your thoughts are in reference to this topic of conversation tonight.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I definitely agree in regards for the perception of foreign men, other than masculinity wise, other than how would you say, a lot of Filipinas who are starting to go more towards foreigners are coming from or moving away towards Filipinos, and they tend to, do talk about how Filipino men are more feminine. We obviously do see it as well. It is
Mm-hmm.
something visible just because, Filipino men have this thing of like metrosexualness where they do like to take care of themselves. They like to keep themselves proper. They do skin care. It's more prominent. If you go around the Philippines, you're gonna see, you're not always gonna see in the US where you have men on billboards half naked,
Right.
you know,
Right.
or or
True.
or promoting
Okay.
skincare stuff, promoting,
Okay.
fitness stuff. You're not gonna see that as much. But this is
Mm-hmm.
something that is so visible in the Philippines, and to be fair, you see it a lot in um, Asian countries more.
Correct.
Japan, South Korea,
Mm.
especially. I mean, heck, China just banned these men who are being more metrosexual, all taking care of their skin. They're banning them to actually be in social media as well. But in the Philippines, it's very prominent and it's standing out there.
Okay. Let me interject real quick. I think Asian countries, and I may be wrong about this one, but so please correct me if I am wrong, but it's the only place, only in the Philippines since I've been there, have there been pageants for men. I've never seen this shit in the United States ever, like the Filipino Chinese pageant. I've seen the shit. We're talking about dudes who participate in the same somewhat activities that a woman would do for Miss Universe
Mhm.
or the beginning ng Filipinas. They have same competitions set up like that for men
Mhm.
in the Philippines. I've seen it. Like you said, the billboards, man, guys, scantily clad. Okay, now you might see models, Tyson Beckford, if they're modeling like Calvin Klein or something like that, maybe every now and again. But you can kind of see that they're somewhat exuding a masculine energy. We'll just keep it
Mhm.
at that. But sometimes, my man over here on the bench or the pin shop and modeling the underwear over there and shit. My man spread across the bed and shit. Now I'm just saying this because this is a billboard that I've seen before. Dude just laying, in the skincare treatment, the makeup and the whole nine, and how they, treat themselves. Don't get me wrong, they're doing what they feel is best for them. But as a whole, you'll start to have an understanding that the metrosexuality definitely comes out a whole lot more in Asian countries, probably than it would in a country like, the United States or anywhere in the West. Comment?
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. I mean, if you look into the 80s, in the Philippines and stuff like that, if you guys are familiar enough with Philippines, the two main channels, you have ABS-CBN and the other guys will say that. But I mean, if you
Mm-hmm.
look at, for example, Eat Bulaga, which is an afternoon special, it's an afternoon show
Mm-hmm.
slot and everything like that. They've been having
Right.
since the 80s the Mr. Poggy pageant, which is Poggy means, guapo, good looking and stuff like that.
Handsome, right.
They've been having that for since the 80s. I mean, just to let you guys know, let me ask you, if you guys been around Philippines enough, have you guys ever seen a Filipina or a Filipino do this pose? This is from the Mr. Poggy pose. This was originated in the 1980s. And if you pay attention, it's a frame of a person's face. So
Correct.
they're framing their face, say, hey, look over here, I'm Mr. Poggy. So that's always been a thing, in the Philippines. But there's a twist to it, if you really look at it. Because remember, what foreigners are hearing from the Filipinas. What do foreigners hear from the Filipinas? Oh, I don't want these Filipinos no more because they're so feminine. They're such a mama's boys. But I want you guys to really think about it. And I made a video actually, and I found it the other day because I'm doing my throwback videos. And I interviewed some girls and I said, hey, why is it that women are wanting to date not wanting to date Filipino men now? And I made the video in the perspective of the women sharing what they have. And what was wrong for me is not to pick up something. And this is what happens when you've been around people enough, is that you have to understand patterns. So the pattern that I recognized when I rewatched that video, okay, and I wanted to put it out, I'll probably put it out in 3 days or so, is that we've heard this before where women call men feminine. We've heard this before where women will feminize men as a way in regards to actually make fun of them. We see this in the United States, and you see it prominently more in Latinos and the Black community. And what I'm talking about is when women start getting mad at men, they will use terms like ad hominems and name calling men. How do you make a man weak or look weak? You call them a woman. You call him feminine. You call him weak. And with that said are these women calling these Filipinos out as feminine, as weak, and why they want a masculine man? Because they hate them because something happened that got showed out? And so we have to be careful when a woman says, I don't want to date Filipinos anymore because they're feminine. But the thing though is they're running away from men. There's no difference what your skin color is, what nationality you are. If they have an internal hatred towards men and calling men in general feminine, gay,
let's go.
what would you think about those women? I'm like looking at that as like, technically that's a little damage.
True. But Mike, I got you. Let me get this one right. All right. So the best way to tear down a man's masculinity or whatever is to call them gay. Okay. That's what they do to us, whether it's true or not. That's true. But let's transition this just a little bit. If we look at the metrosexual traits of most men, soft features or whatever, makeup and all that stuff, transitions into more looks from women, transitions into getting more women, transitions into the fuck boys, the chicks boys, and that shit. And girls say they like that shit, they don't really like that shit. So now you're talking about transitioning to the hatred of men, right? So they hate them, But it's not to say that some foreigners may not exude some of the same traits. And I kind of feel that if they do, it'll definitely be a turnoff for most Filipinas. But because we don't necessarily carry ourselves like that in the country for the majority of us, that's kind of how that differing trait kind of sort of, in a sense, there's other things, but it kind of separates us from the local guys, from being the foreign men. And like you said, that general hatred that comes from men in general, because of the way that I kind of feel like maybe they've been messed around a lot, because you hear it a lot. Why, like, if you genuinely ask why you don't like these guys, oh, they're such chicks boys, or they're always a lot of girls, and they're cheaters and stuff like that, you'll hear it. Granted, that doesn't mean that yeah, other people can't do it, but it's just the simple fact that they tend to go to those same general talking points, on top of the idea of them being feminine as well. And then we got to do it, Mike. I'm not sure if I'm ready for it yet. We might be too
Go for
early
it.
in the show for this. We might be too early in the show for this shit. But all right, let's do some housekeeping real quick. All right, guys, if you're loving the video, please by all means make sure you drop a like, make sure you subscribe, do all the good stuff to make yourself well versed in my content. Description area below. If you are not already subscribed to my man Mike's Philippines Journey channel, click on his name in the title. It'll take you directly to his page. All right. If you guys want to support in any fashion, please feel free to do so. But we're happy and blessed y'all choose to lock in tonight. All right, Mike, we got a transition, man. We talked about somewhat of the feminine nature of some of these guys. Okay. All right,
Well,
Mike, here we
before
go.
we transition,
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
so if there's anybody right now watching this live over at my channel, and if you're still there, thank you so much. But I put the description, it's pinned on the top on the live chats. It's also, the link is also in the description of the video itself. Hit that one because it should take you over to Dr. Mike's, because I'm going to be ending the live right now, the broadcast over at my channel right now. It's just so that I just want to be able to catch any stragglers. So let me end that really quick, Mike.
All right.
All right. So that's over. All right. Awesome.
All
so
right.
anyways, thanks for
game time. All right.
Let's go.
I'm going to ask you to go do some Philippine trivia. My man. All right. So let's do some trivia real quick. And I'm trying to make sure that I word it in a way that you're going to be able to easily get it. And if I fuck up, get me. But when it comes down to image, looks, the way that they carry themselves, this metrosexual type of energy that some of these guys exude, who are usually the ones that are helping them create this image? What type of people in particular?
Oh, I'm sorry. LGBTQ. The A, the alphabet.
ISTUV. Yeah, your LBs, right? You feel me, right? So imagine if these are the guys or ladies, whatever your pronoun is for that day, are the ones that are helping to create this image. Are we really surprised that some of these guys, low-key, may be into a little bit of, we'll call it team switching at this particular point of the show? Are we surprised by that? See, I told you, Mike, I went for the jugular, bro. I didn't know if we were ready for it, but I just had to get it. I had to get it out because it's on my mind.
So when you brought the topic up to me, right? When you brought up the topic up to me, right? So I was like, I remember I sent you that the name of a dude from the 80s, right?
Right. You want to go for it? Go ahead, man.
Yeah, so let's go straight there, right? I mean, I'm sorry to say, you go to Hollywood, when the rise of the Hollywood, everyone will be talking about, even James Dean was switching hitters.
Marlon Brando.
Marlon Brando.
Richard Pryor.
I don't know about Richard Pryor. I'm not gonna go there, but
I'm just saying names I've heard. I'm not saying, but
so now let's go to the Philippines. During the 80s, you have who they call Herman Moreno and Ike Losada. These guys were the vice gandas of the 80s. So when you start seeing, and this is the thing where people just need to really understand history and stuff like that, where and how history will repeat itself and hasn't stopped. If you look at those guys groomed those during the 80s was the beginning of the Filipino men to be emasculated, to and for comparing to America was the 60s of the emasculation of men. 80s is when it happened to the Philippines. Because if you look at movies during the 70s, during the 60s in the Philippines, that's all bad boy stuff. You have Fernando Poe Jr., Eddie Garcia. I'm talking about gunfights and OK Salon type of stuff. But if you look in the 80s, there was a switch. And so what we have to look at is the fact that, yes, this is what it is. But the thing, though, is entertainment dictates what people want. So if that's what women are seeing on TV as the type of man that they should be going after, because in the love scenes and the, you know, the romantic scenes and stuff like that's what it is, that's what they're going to be claiming. So what we're dealing with, the type of women now, are the second generation of women that was raised by the women of the 80s. So when you start looking at that, the 18, 20-year-olds of the 80s are now what? In their 50s or 40s or 50s or 60s. So what you have is the kids that men are going, well, say not kids, the women who are in their mid-20s are the product of that. So yes, the women want that. The thing, though, is it goes against the inner beings of, or the animalistic things of women and men, where women want men who are more alpha, somebody who can lead. So inside their heart is that's what they need, because that's what's going to help them survive, or more say just that's within them. But what their eyes and what their mind is thinking is that they want this perceived value. Why do you think during the early 2000s was the J-pops? Now you have the K-pops of the 2020s.
Killing it, man. Fucking
Are you telling me, you know, so the thing, though, is, are they really just settling is my question. Because you're going to see that is that, you know, women, if you know, I talk about this whole hypergamy stuff and everything like that, but when they hit that final wall, when they realize, you know, this woman thinking that she's a 10, but she's actually looking like a double bagger brown face, I'm just saying is that, you know, well, I need to just deal with what's going to be able to be in front of me, what I can really attain. And so that's what they have right there. And so men need to understand, what do you really have in front of you is my question. Did she settle with you? Are you paying attention to what she's saying? It's not about she doesn't want to be with Filipinos. She wants to be with a Filipino. But why is she running away from Filipinos? And most men don't ask that question.
All right. See, Mike, this may be only something, a couple of my guys might be able to pick this up in the chat, but what has become popularly a good concept for Filipino shows now is, like I said, comedy, and you got to have a gay co-star somewhere in there.
Of course.
Always. Right. But if you could think about any show that has portrayed a man in a masculine role, I honestly believe that would have been Coco Martin's last show, or the show that's still running. I don't know if it's still on right now. The fucking show where he played Carlo, or whatever the dude's name is. I forgot what it was. I can't remember. His last show on ABS-CBN that was
TV?
going.
Oh, you mean he was playing
Unprovinciano, right? Yeah,
Unprovinciano. Okay, let's go there.
Right. Go for it.
Where's Provinciano based out of?
I forgot. Fuck.
Provinciano was an early 80s movie coming from Fernando Poe Jr.
Okay.
So this is the thing. Yeah, so it's very masculine because it's an homage towards the time where Filipino men were looked at. And listen, you know, this is the thing also that a lot of foreigners make mistakes. You hear all this jargon, how Filipino men are feminine. I'm sorry to say, if you're in a fight, you want a Filipino guy to scrap with behind you, right next to you. You know, so those are just the complete truths. You want to get into a fight, have a Filipino next to you during a fight to back you up. Trust me, no matter how small he is, he's gonna scrap. You know, that's the thing. When I was in high school, some of the craziest people that got into fights with were Filipino men, because those dudes were, you know, they make up for the size that they lack. So, you know, this whole thing about, so the Coco Martin thing, so that's Provinciano. That is based out of Fernando Poe Jr. During the good old days with Erap. You know, you have, you know, who was a previous president, right?
Robin
Him
Padilla,
and Fernando
right?
Poe were friends. You have Ramon Revilla. You have all these old school guys. You know, Ramon Revilla is the father of Bong Revilla, who's going to be running, I think, for vice president, I think, this year. I'm not too sure.
Something like that. I can't remember. Yeah. But yeah. Man, guys, there's a whole thing and a whole theme that comes out of all of this. And Mike, like I said, you hit on the great points about the idea of it's not so much, or it may seem that it's not so much the transition of, oh, I want foreigner, I don't want Filipino, as opposed to, like I said, like you said, understanding the reasons and the underlying factors as to why these guys have become somewhat, see, it's not, I want not somewhat undesirable, and that's not even really true to the true extent, but you do have some that will shun away, right? But then again, if that's the case, how can we attest to or talk about the recent transition or influx within the last 10, 20 years of this K-pop thing, if back in the day, or where we stand now with Filipino men, the metrosexuality? Because again, I'm not going to talk shit about my Koreans, but let's keep it a buck and a half. They have some very metrosexual tendencies, man. That's it. That's all I'm trying to say. But how can we now come to the determination as to why now these guys are the it guys, when when it seems that some of the guys in country are literally trying to emulate, or to not necessarily copy paste, but come up with the exact same types of mentalities and characteristical traits or some shit.
Okay. So the way I would look at that is this. Just in general of broad terms of looking at how men act, right? So you have the men, and this is the thing, right? So I have a different mindset or thought process of what an alpha man is, right? Most guys, alpha man needs to be the top. I think alpha man should be just the leader of his group. You know, within his group, his peers, he's the leader. So he's the alpha there, right? So this is the thing. Alpha men, so this is the problem that happens with a lot of Filipinos and Filipinas. Alpha men knows how to adapt to the society in order to be able to take advantage, to be able to kill, to be able to survive, to be able to multiply. So there's a lot of men out there who, because they were raised by these women during the 80s, during the 80s, were taught and have realized that, listen, oh, this is the easiest way to conquer some women, to get some women. So a lot of men will do what they need to do to be able to get what you want. You can say they're the ones who take advantage of it. There's the guys who just, whatever. And what ends up happening is you have the incongruent man who then starts seeing these guys, well, if they can do this, I can definitely get the girl as well. So they fake it. They do the workup, but they don't really still have that internal alphaness or the internal I'm the shit type of stuff. And those are the guys that tends to mess things up with the women. And those are the women this is for me, my opinion. So the Filipinas, getting that stuff, they're like, oh, Filipinos are players. No, the Filipinos that you were around were players. So the Filipinos that you choose mess with you because you didn't know how to understand or look at men the right way. So, when women say something like, Filipino men are cheaters, this and that, you know what that hits me in my head when I hear Filipina say that? I'm gonna get some tonight. I'm gonna get some. Yes, tonight.
Sir. Because you're right. I feel that. Go ahead. Go for it. Go ahead.
If a woman does that to me in a bar, and I'm like, oh, you just pretty much
it's game time.
Your daddy issues. And that's like second best from you telling me you have daddy issues. I'm gonna hit it tonight.
I'm gonna say everything right. Yes, sir. Everything right that night. I'm nothing like what you hate. I don't resemble anything that you hate in the moment. So guess what? All I gotta do is say the right words. It's a wrap. Pretty much. It's like wrapped up in a bow. Yeah. Certain keywords, like, they trigger, like, exactly what's about to happen, and that's definitely one of them.
I had a Filipino one time tell me, "Oh my God, you smell just like my dad," and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get sex tonight."
Let's not talk about girls with daddy issues, man, because that could be that should be a topic in itself. But let's just try to keep it on track. All right, guys. If you are new into the chat right now, guys, I see we got 27 in the building. Appreciate you guys locking in. Please make sure you drop your like. We would highly appreciate that for tonight's live show. If you guys want to support in any capacity, please feel free to do so. We're happy and blessed you guys are dropping in with us today. All right, topic, if you are new to the chat right now, why do Filipinas say that Filipinos are very feminine? There's a lot of reasons that we've already covered, but there's one thing that I've done in too many videos in the past to not do it now. So I've got to
Mhm.
do it now. I've always divided up this pie. I call it my chart pie. It's basically encompassing of the entire race of Filipino men, right?
Mhm.
So let's talk about let's divide this up into percentages so you can see exactly what I would believe, and it's an opinion only, of the true available men in the Philippines or in the country. I would say roughly about 30%, and I might be you can help me with this if you want to. About 30% of the men in country are likely ladyboys. Roughly 30%. Maybe lower, maybe higher. Where do you see it? Where you see it?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
What percentage of Filipino men would you say identify as ladyboys? And what percentage of men? Because I'm gonna divide this pie up for them so they can get a mental picture of what I'm trying to come up with. If I said about
Identify
30,
themselves as the
they dress
opposite.
the part, they are the part, they be the part. Okay, all the way
They
live.
said the study in the Philippines that this is according to a study that was done in college between the
Mhm.
ages of 18 to 24, right? So they
Okay,
said that around 7% of Filipinos in college
okay. So
are
only seven
either are
percent.
either swinging for the other team or have participated in some duties of the other team.
Okay, so 7 to 10%. Well, for the ease of nature, 10%. All right. Now, with the other 90% per se, that leaves guys that are married and committed. That takes away a portion, we'll say. And when I say those are guys that are not entertaining third parties, we'll just say that. How many of them are out there? I don't know. That's always going to be questionable. So, like I said, guys who specifically identify as part of that particular part of the community, guys that are openly just gay. I put them in two different categories because those that dress the part and those that are the part of two different categories. Married men. So, in what percentage, hypothetically, do you believe is actually left for available Filipinas to actually get with in reference to the men? It could be probably a slight 50% or better to an extent. But I'm saying, but in reference to this particular layout, the availability of men in the country that are still, how can I say this, still attractive or to some of these Filipinas is slim to none to an extent. If you think of all the remaining women of the country, if Filipino men and Filipino women were 1 to 1, if we divide that pie up, basically you're going to be left with a limited number of men. And it goes back to the golden independence syndrome that we talked about in our last live show, in reference to the small number of available men that could be at local as well in the Philippines, and also those that are traveling to the Philippines. Because of the small available number, that influx of foreigners coming in also are able to operate, I want to say, at a high level, because competition to an extent is slim. Would you say that competition is slim for foreigners in the Philippines, or that's not necessarily something you would believe to be accurate?
Less
Curiosity.
competition for foreigners in the Philippines. Um, the way I look at it is no matter what is you look at a bunch of women want 20% of the ideal men. That's
True.
what they want, right? So
Mm-hmm.
80% of the women are going after for the 20% of the men, right? But they all think they can
Right.
get that. The numbers in the Philippines is 1.01 male to 1 female. That's the population as of 2020, the ratings. It's 1 to 1 in the
Okay.
Philippines. So when we
Right.
start looking at that, even if you have that where women are trying to go after the 20% male, and what I'm saying is I'm not talking about just being rich. I'm talking about the
Mm-hmm.
looks. I'm talking about all that stuff. They all want that. That's their Cinderella thing. That's their princess. I deserve that. Where men are going for the opposite aspect of things. And so when a foreigner comes to the Philippines,
Mm-hmm.
he comes with the stigma of a foreigner. He comes with the stigma of like, oh, these foreigners, they're coming to our country. They're willing to travel thousands of miles, spend their money, meet this Filipina. There's that's like the ultimate queen princess dream that the prince is gonna take you from the rags to riches to be able to bring you there. So any foreigner that comes to the Philippines, you are, even no matter what level you are in regards for your masculinity, you are going to be running in the coattails of that beautiful stigma of foreigners. The problem that happens is when you stay long enough to the Philippines, because you're a foreigner, you're going to get exposed more because the eyes are on you. So if you don't live the life of what a foreigner is supposed to be, then you're exposed. But if you're just flying into the country, you got it good. So it's not like it's slim pickings. You have more for the picking as a foreigner. But the thing though is that determines also on how the foreigner is. Can you just because you're a foreigner, they're going to look good. You're going to look good. But still, if you don't know how to approach a Filipina, approach a woman in general, you're still slim pickings. Because the problem though now is it's different to approach a Filipina than to approach an American. Like I can approach an American woman, I can go to a bar and throw in a neg and make fun of her in a smiley way, and she's gonna accept that. You try to do pickup stuff in the Philippines and throw a neg on a woman, get slapped. Throw a neg right away. Trust me, you know she's gonna walk away from you. So this whole thing, that's why I laugh when people are like, oh, POA works in the Philippines. No, it doesn't.
Bullshit. No,
just because you took a training book, just because you read this particular book, no. You have to understand the culture as well. That doesn't mean that there's certain things that won't work, but that's the thing. You there's no. Who cares if people are looking at you if you're not going to look back and approach and have a conversation with them? You know,
it's basically useless. It's useless. The looks are useless. So what? You could go back and say, "Oh, she looked at me. Yeah, I got this," right? But you never approach. I will comfortably say, like I said, game does not translate from the West world to the East. Yes, I will say that, like I said, some of the same lines, if you can translate it to a way that a Filipina can understand it, or it's applicable to the Philippines. Like I can't remember the comment specifically that you put on the video. It was a while back, bro. It was about something about PUA or some shit like that. And we were talking about certain lines that translate well and most of the ones that do not, right? So you can't just think that everything that works in the West for you is going to work for you in the East. Because like you said, either it'll go in one ear and out the other. No, they'll either not understand it or they'll take offense to it. And trust me, Filipinos are easily offended. They don't have no problem calling you bastos and all that bullshit, bro. They will call you out of your name. So yeah, it's definitely different. I want to try to get to some of these comments real quick. You said you got to acquire real seduction skills rather than implementing PUA skills. I can see how that works. He said game applies globally, but you custom tailor according to which part of the world that you are in. Nah, I don't disagree with that. Let me try to see if I can get some of the earlier ones, man. Like they said that let's go back to the comment. Hold on. Let me get right. He said, because most are mama's boys. When we were talking about the mama's boys. Let's hone in on that one real quick, because we never really did a deep dive on what you mean by mama's boys and how it transcends or connects to the feminine nature of men. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but I think from a Filipino perspective, it could be a little different. But so go ahead and you want to talk a little bit more about that one.
Well, mama's boys, right? If we're in the U.S., kids by 18, you're expected to get out of the house, right? Parents kicks you out, technically, right? But I'm sorry to say, nowadays we're seeing more and more return to sender children coming back in their 30s to their parents' basement. It's happening nonstop nowadays in the U.S., right? In the Philippines, isn't it technically culturally accepted for multi-generational people to live in one house? It is. So the thing, though, is that's the biggest problem that happens is a lot of women start calling men mama's boys, and it's the same exact thing. It's the repeat of let's offend men and feminize them a little bit. But let's go at it. It's called the baby bonging syndrome, right? So if you're familiar with baby bonging, if you call a man a bonging in the Philippines, it's based out of this character during the early 90s and the late 80s, who's this big boy who acts like a little baby that his mom defended him all the time. So you want to go ahead and offend a Filipino, call him a baby bonging, right? But that's the thing. because of the influction, we're giving history here, man. That's what I'm gonna say. We're gonna give some 80s class history here for Filipinos. I'm trying to hook it up with the guys so they have to understand this. But that's the biggest thing. When women start calling men mama's boys, they're calling men mama's boys, not just, what do you call this thing? Not just Filipinos. They're calling all men as mom. Don't want men who are mama's boys, right? But here's the thing. I'm sorry to say, why do they still end up with the mama's boys? Why is it that all of a sudden they hate mama's boys, yet for some reason they got impregnated by mama's boys? Why is it that they're saying, I don't like mama's boys, but at the very same time that a foreigner hurts their little pussies, they run over to the next mama's boys hanging around the corner that doesn't have a job and sleeps with him? Is it because they don't want mama's boys? Or is it that's what they want? Why? Because they want a man who's true to his feelings. They want a man who's romantic. They want a man who is what? Close to his mother, because technically a man who will respect his mother will respect the women. But the biggest problem is Filipino men have figured out the key to how to sleep with multiple Filipinas. This is the funniest thing. You cannot be, as a foreigner coming into the country, then all of a sudden saying this. I'm not gonna, I'm not that Filipino man that hurts your feelings. I'm here to save you. Trust me. That's not gonna work. Either just own up for yourself and be like, I'm a good man. Don't compare yourself among the guys that she's gonna end up sleeping with anyways.
Big facts. Yeah. Look, I couldn't have said the shit any better. Shout out to my man C Listens. Appreciate you, man. He says great work as well. Great work as usual. From your experience, would you say I think that's high quality Filipinas are more interested in metrosexual, asexual men or masculine foreign men? Mike, that's all you, bro. I'm gonna let you go and then I'll tap in a little bit after.
But what's the definition of a metrosexual? Because each one has their own individual idea of that stuff. So I'm sorry to say, if I go, like, if you guys are familiar in the manosphere and know Alpha Man, right? Alpha Man, A Marino.
Alpha Male Strategies, AMS?
No, not AMS.
No.
What's his name? A Marino. But anyways, if you guys look him up, he's a style coach, teaches you how to be how to act better and get fit, dress better and all that stuff, right? I forgot his name. But anyways, the thing though is, if a guy takes care of himself, skincare, hair's all good, dresses up good, is he a metrosexual, or he's just good at peacocking and showing that he's a good person? Or are you talking about a because see, guys sometimes make fun of men. Are like, oh, look at that hair, he's a metrosexual. Oh, look at the way he dresses, it's a metrosexual. No, isn't that called peacocking? Like how traditional men should actually be able to stand out from other men? Or are you just talking about straight up metrosexual who really acts like a woman but dresses like a man? See, it's hard to answer that. But the thing though is, I would say it's a combination. I would say it's a man who can dress well, have good appearance, look good, stand among from the crowd, but then also be a masculine man. And there's plenty of those combos. It's a combination. I mean,
that's true. Go ahead.
Just imagine if you're masculine, you're all buffed up, you got your beard going on because your testosterone is just pumping, and you're in the corner wearing some chinelas and some shorts and some wife beaters. Do you think you're gonna be able to get the girl, or the other guy who's skinnier than you, properly looking, but able to talk to the woman?
I got something for that for a second. Shout out to my man Pedro, man. Appreciate you, brother.
It's a lot.
You know what's funny?
This has got to be
we unpacking some shit. Go ahead.
That's why when you asked me, man, I was like, this is a good topic because it needs to be addressed among men, because we're seeing men have these things about Filipino men, but why is it that the Filipino men are impregnating Filipinas nonstop in the because that's what the Filipinas want.
Deep down inside, they can say what they say, but their underlying factor, their triggers, and like you said, as long as you know the triggers, bro, it's like you can say whatever you want to. In a roundabout way, they're going to continue to get theirs. And I kind of figure what we were talking about earlier in the asexual, metrosexual types of guys and stuff, and masculine men. There's a common saying that most men say, you can keep it, you can take it how you want to, but I kind of feel like it kind of connects to exactly what we're talking about in this situation. Guys will say that they want a lady in the streets and a freak in the sheets, right? So you kind of have the idea in that perspective that you want both. A lady that carries herself very well when she's around others and everybody sees her. You know, you want her to dress right, you want her to look right, you want her to be, you want her to look good on your shoulder. But when you're behind closed doors, you kind of want to be able to, have your fun and, do things like that. And, you want all that proper shit to go out the window. So I kind of feel like when it comes to the combination of the alpha plus, being able to take care of yourself and dress right, very true. A quick question earlier in the chat, Mike. So when did ladyboys become popular in the Philippines?
Ever since
Would you say
Americans
that?
came over?
Real shit? Huh. What makes you say that? I'm just asking. Curious.
The ladyboy concept is a Western concept.
Okay.
Why do you think the ladyboys are not fully existent in the Middle East?
Yeah, you'll never see that shit.
Because they're gonna get killed. You think that's gonna happen in a high Catholic society, Christian society? No.
It shouldn't. It shouldn't exist at all. It kills me.
It's the Westernization, and I hate to say it, Americanization of the Philippines. It's okay. We let it happen in our country. We let it happen here in America. Right? The guys who were born in the 40s let it all happen. Now, us guys who are in our 30s, 40s right now trying to fight it now, but the deed has been happened. It's been delivered. The guys who are in their 20s and their 60s let feminism reign supreme. Philippines is the next thing. It's just 10 years down the road.
Dave says the boys grow up surrounded by women in the Philippines. The man has got to go out and work because I think he meant no money. He said no honey or no. I think he meant you just won't have the money if the guy doesn't work. I think that's what he's trying to say. I'm not exactly sure. Right. And there's a lot of truth to that. But then again, I've often said that it seems like the women are the ones that are actually going out and doing the most work nowadays. If you ask me, from what I've seen, because those are the ones that are able to get the jobs the easiest.
Yep.
So how is it that a son potentially still being raised by his father still comes out with certain feminine traits? Does that all trace back to the circle of life and the cycle of life, where if father was raised one way, i.e. teaches the exact same traits in their own children per se? I'm just
our son being raised at home by the father because the mother works makes him feminine. Gives him more feminine points because he doesn't have this understanding. Like, wait, I thought the man's supposed to lead the house. I thought the man's supposed to make the money for the family. So why is mom making more money? Or you may have also the other fact where the woman resents the fact that she's the one making the money, yet the husband is just chilling. And then all of a sudden, the kid is going up, being raised up, hearing the woman saying, I make the money in the house. I make the decisions. And, for a man to be able to raise a boy into a man, you have to be able to expose him to what men should be. And so with a lot of men, a lot of kids growing up with that, and then don't forget social media, TV, entertainment, what they're exposed with. I mean, look, everybody loved Piolo Pascual. He was the guy that every girl swooned for and got wet in the bed every night. And then all of a sudden, he got exposed because of a video of him watching a Manny Pacquiao fight, and he screamed like a bitch. And they realized, oh, crap, he really is gay from what everybody's talking about. But did that matter? No, he still made movies after movies of him being this alpha guy that every man should be.
Hollywood, man. We'll just call it Hollywood, man. Reading the comments. My man says it's more of an Asian thing to live in your family's house past 18 years of age rather than moving out. But you know what's funny though? Going back to the mama boy thing and everything, usually when a son goes out, gets a wife, gets married, they move back into the house with the family. So they start to create families within families within families under one roof. We would say honestly, it's probably because he couldn't afford to move out, likely, depending on that, or they wanted somebody that could take care of the kid while they were working, if that's the case. But the moms, we have to be honest, the moms don't make it easy either because they don't want to relinquish that particular stronghold over their children, more specifically their sons.
Mm-hmm.
I will go out on a limb and say that mothers care for their sons probably more than they care for their daughters. Some people may disagree, but I believe from what I've seen, I see that the mothers are, like you said, the babying and all of that shit. They will do that for their sons tenfold. But with the daughters, it's kind of like they're training them to be the wives or training them, yo, you got to make sure you take care of this. You got to make sure you take care of that, take care of household, whatever your job is. That's what it is. So they're hard. It's like they hard out there on these pills. It's hard out there for a pill. So they definitely are harder on their daughters than they definitely are on their sons, which is probably why, i.e., some of these kids grow up soft and baby shit, bro. Just a little bit. And you'll see some of these women being harder than men,
Yep.
even in the Philippines. Even in the Philippines. My man says, don't listen to what women say. Always observe her actions. I agree. It's hard to trust one. I made a video when I first started that said, should you ever trust a Filipina that gives you advice about Filipinos? Did you ever take advice from a Filipina that gives you advice about Filipinos?
It depends. It really depends. And so, like, I'm one of those guys who like to ask questions. So it's like, I always say, give me a scenario base and stuff like that. I mean,
Right.
I think Filipinas can give good advice to people on what Filipinas want. I mean, it's just
Right.
like guy, same thing. Could you trust a guy to be, it's like it can just be back and forth. The problem that I have is to find out the background of the person giving the advice. Like,
Okay.
if I see a vlogger talking about how men can find a Filipina, I have a problem with that. Unless that person is with a foreigner already. Why? Because my thing is that it kind of messes me up. And that's why I talk about a lot of times where the worst Filipina to date is the Filipina that says she doesn't want Filipino men because of this, but then she dated a foreigner that didn't work out. Because that Filipina just discovered that all men are the same. They might as well get the one that they can get paid on.
Right. I'm reading the comment real quick. I'm sorry, Mike. So Dan said that he has not observed. Shout out to you, Dan. Filipino men being more effeminate. You haven't observed that, and I give you it. Sometimes it depends on where you are and who you're hanging out with. Some of
Maybe
them
Dan lives
try
in
to.
Tondo.
Them some hard motherfuckers over there, bro. Ain't no feminine looking men over in Tondo. That's
Maybe you
some
live in Tondo,
hard.
Dan, or maybe you live in Batangas somewhere down Batangas, or maybe you live in Kawit Cavite where like the hard ass boys are from. It depends on where you live, but
Right.
the thing though is it's everywhere and you can sense it if you just walk around the Philippines. Now, if you are in the more barrio areas, then you're gonna see more manly men there because men have to handle their business, take care of the wives, take care of the family. So if you're in the province, you're gonna see more manlier men handling their business. And that's if you're in the deep barrio, the deep provinces. But
Now, in
no, go ahead.
fairness, he followed up and said he hung out with Filipino men who were drivers, dirt bikers, trekkers, and stuff like that. That sounds more like definitely guys that you'll find in, like you said, the those particular areas that you mentioned before.
Yeah, those are
Um,
okay. Yeah.
for sure.
But then
So,
I would take it to the next level is have you seen them around the women? See, if you hang around the men being men are going to act like men. Put them
true.
around a bunch of beautiful women and you're going to expose them for what they really are. Because then they're going to act the way, things change. But when men hang out with men, when you're out there dirt biking, maybe by Mount Pinatubo, when you're doing all that stuff, that's some very manly stuff. So if you're among men, you won't see that because a man's not going to be like, oh, I love to take care of my skin. Put them around the women and expose them. That's
Bruh.
my dad used to do this, right? If you feel that one of the people you hang out with is gay, What you do is you guys go drinking and then you scare the fucker. If he screams like a little bitch, stop hanging out with him and beat the shit out of him. Those were the rules back in the days. But nowadays it's exposed.
You know what's funny, man? And I'm just gonna use this as an example. And you may have seen it too. I don't know exactly what this particularly means. I'm just gonna say it because this is what I've seen, because Dan was saying he's never experienced that. Being around effeminate Filipino men, to be more specific. So my young lady, when she was doing her review for her NCLEX, right? She did her nursing NCLEX review. So they were part of a review program and all that stuff. And at the end of the year, they had a party or like a celebratory thing, reviews over, let loose type of thing. Explain to me why every single time guys would get up on stage, it was always something that was meant to be funny, jokingly, like an act that was funny, meant to be jokingly, but it was always something that involved drag. It was always something that involved drag. There you go. It's fucking funny. But the thing is, we have to dress like women to get a reaction. Do you not believe that in any sense that's going to have an impact on how people view? I don't know.
Well, but look at what they do in Hollywood. You win a fucking award when you act gay. There's that interview with Dave Chappelle one time where he's talking about he took a part, but for some reason the director, the producer, all of a sudden wanted him to dress like a woman. He refused. He said no. And how many times he refused? He goes into his dresser and the dress is fucking hanging there. This is the thing. This is a way where women have emasculated men. And yes, women are emasculating men. It's more prevalent in the US, but over in the Philippines, it was easily obtained. It was easily, they didn't even need to fucking pump their fucking brakes and say, let's do feminism in the Philippines. No, they didn't do it, right? They stormed the castle. They there already. Now, when you start having pushback from men, they're going to start complaining. They're going to start whining. Heck, they had just that law the other day that they had to approve a law to say that a woman can keep her last name after marriage. When in the truth, in the Philippines, the way it works for a person's name is your first name, your middle name is your mom's maiden name, and then your last name. So when somebody asks somebody, what's your name? They're going to say Janet La Jolla Cruz. That's how it is. Over here in the States, we get our middle name. My middle name is Jason. So that's how it works. But the biggest problem is, people just don't understand. But yeah, the whole acting gay is gonna get you the attention. The girls are gonna like, oh my God, he can be down with that. And it just goes with the course of that. You always have to have a gay best friend. Mm-hmm. There's always that, And the
family member, relative.
This is the worst thing ever, right? I remember one time, right? There was this girl. Let's just say that she was pretty good at handling her business by her knees, right? And you know what? I gave her a compliment. I said, man, that's some good stuff. This woman tells me, oh, I learned it from a good friend of mine. I was like, damn. I was like, and then she tells me the name. And obviously that's not a fucking female's name, right? And I was like, what? And she's like, oh, he's gay. I was like, yeah, something's wrong here. Because that's the thing. The alphabet, it's like an opposite in the US. Alphabet people in the US are now trying to gain grounds and be like, oh, that's phobia this, phobia that. I'm not going to mention the name because I don't want to get it flagged, whatever. They don't have that in the Philippines. So it's a problem. So that's why I always say, if your girl has a gay best friend, cancel it. If she won't get rid of them. There's just things that you have to understand how to control it. And I'm not saying it's being a dick. It's being somebody of having preference. But most guys are going to let it slide.
True. Because it's always a best friend or relative. that you're likely going to come across the fucking relatives, boy. That's where it gets ugly. Now, Paul, I'm not going to post the comment, just for the sake of the video, but you're saying that behaving in such a way does not get women sexually aroused. Let's get real. Okay. I know where you're coming from in that regard, but what we're trying to connect here is sometimes it's what's utilized to just get in the door. You don't necessarily act this way 100% of the time, but girls respond to this shit, at least in my opinion, because they find it to be funny. They find it to be entertaining. And what do women like? Women like to be entertained. In my
and women like to
opinion,
convert. I'm sorry. Women like to convert men into, alphabet people into real men. It's the Miss Save-A-Dick mentality,
And that's something nobody ever talked about. I've never heard that topic ever. We've never. If you've done it, you need to re-release that video immediately because nobody
Look at the
ever.
movies. Once again, there's movies about, be like, oh my God, I wish, sana hindi ka naging bakla, sana naging tunay na lalaki. Meaning, I wish you were gay, I wish you were, a real man. There's a lot of, perfect example, Piero Pasquale in Majority, right? People don't understand it. I'll give you a quick example. My boy, this works in the US, this works in South America, and this works in the Philippines. I've witnessed it. I refuse to use this line. He would go up to a girl and he'll be like, if I wasn't gay and if I wasn't drunk, I would so make out with you. And do you know that 9 out of 10 women will start making out with him?
That's just not gonna happen. I could not stoop that low. I can't
pull it off. He pulled it off every single time, and I've seen with him sleep with at least 20-something women, taking them home that night by using that line. And then once he's making out with the girls, he'll say, "I was just joking with you. I'm not gay." But then the women stay.
We're already there. Fuck it. We're already there. So I mean, you gotta understand, it's gonna pop off. That shit is crazy. I've never personally seen anybody pull it off, but it's definitely good to it's weird to hear somebody actually make that attempt. It's kind of fucking scary that you feel like that's the way you have to conduct yourself to get somebody.
Ooh, the balls that he has is just amazes me.
Hey, sometimes you just have to clap that up. But before we move on, guys, 35 in the building, man. If you have not dropped your like already, I would highly appreciate that. Well, you know what we do over here on the Dr. Mike TV channel, but if you don't, likes are free. Knock those out real quick. Trust me, help the algorithm. I don't care if you try to help me or not. If you don't like the video, you can dislike it. It's all good, but you got to show me you feel something. All right. If you guys want to support, please feel free to do so, like I said, but we're happy and blessed that you choose to come through and spend some time here. There was a movie that came out a while back. Vice Gandhi played 4 roles. The Tomboy Bakla. God damn, I can't remember the name of the movie, but you kind of remember, right?
No, I do not. And, dude, every time I see a Vice Gandhi thing, man, I start shrinking and I start like shaking. I'm like, fuck no, I can't do it. I can't. I'm not
gonna say. I've never watched the movie, but I'm telling you the concept of the movie because it always comes out. Oh, a Vice Gandhi movie. Pardon me for knowing this shit. This is what happens when you live in the Philippines and this motherfucker's everywhere.
Good, man.
But around December time, they have their Filipino Film Festival, and they always, well, maybe not this year or even last year, but they always she whatever the comedian always has a movie. But in one year, they released a video or a movie called he played all 4 roles. He played the man, he played the woman, he played the gay, he played the tomboy. In all 4 roles. And there's also movies that he's in wherein Tony Gonzaga, being the leading lady, is in the position of trying to convert. The same situation that you just mentioned plays out in movies as well. So it's not as if this concept is uncommon. This shit happens more often than not. It's scary to think that somebody would say what they said, like your boy did, but hell, if it works and it works for you, I'm not going to stand in the way of your success. But that's a tough one for me, man.
Well, why do you think women Filipinas have they have a gay best friend? Have you ever thought about that?
I used to always believe that. I don't believe in gay best friends, man. I used to always think somebody was clapping some cheeks, bro. I used to always believe that, period. Even if it's not happening, it's just something I think about. Because I'd be like, yo, you real close to like this girl. Like you are like on top of her all the time. Oh, it's just my best friend. It's just my best friend. You gonna tell me you ain't made out with this dude one time? Y'all ain't just tried to experiment one time. As much time as y'all spend together, right? I don't know. Maybe I see
Well,
it different.
here's the thing. It's an underlying. This is why I find it an underlying issue, right? So, like, look, I've been around these guys, like, because when you hang around with enough girls, and stuff
You're gonna
like
find
that,
one or two.
you know they exist. If you approach a group of women, like,
Mm-hmm.
if you're approaching a woman cold in a group, in a bar with a whole group, there's the gay dude's popping out soon somewhere. He'd be like, "Surprise, motherfucker, I'm right here." So I mean, but so you learn how to handle that. So trust me, gay dudes in the Philippines, much respect. They they straight up out there and they hate women parts. We'll just say that. They'll be like
Right.
kadire, all that stuff. Women
Mm-hmm.
have gay best friends. It's because it's the perfect boyfriend. It's
True.
the perfect boyfriend. Touch with the feminine side, can share some good jokes, willing to accept, to be around you. Is not going to have that once a week, that 1 week a month moodiness, because they have their period. It's the perfect boyfriend. And that's the reason why a lot of these guys is also the reason why a lot of women break up with their boyfriends.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of the time these guys actually want to sleep with her boyfriend.
True
So,
that.
it's a
Low
perfect
key.
proxy. And if if a woman can't see that, and your job as a man when you meet a woman is to explain her why this is how you see it. And if she's not willing to accept it,
Mm-hmm.
you think she's going to choose you over her best friend?
Not even close. Not
Yeah.
even close. What? I wouldn't even waste my time, man. I wouldn't even waste my time. My man said Cuba Gooding Jr. in Boat Trip. I think he played the role of the yeah, he was kind of flamboyant, I believe, in that movie. Or he just to get the girl. Or do you remember Miguel Nunez and Joanna Man? Please tell me you at least saw that one.
Oh my God. See, you know, that was
I know the
classic.
concept of them. I know that movie. I know Joanna Man was the jail,
Oh
bro.
my, you know
I
what? Talking about
can't.
Miguel Nunez, like the first time he came across my radar was in Tour of Duty during the '80s. That Vietnam
Okay.
TV show. I don't know if you've ever watched that. That's one of the best action TV shows. He was like 17 around that time, but that's such a
Okay.
good show. But yeah, Juwanna Man it's a good movie, but it just takes it's just this reverse thing that you're seeing where it's the Hollywood entertainment who's controlled by women because the money comes from women making decisions on what movie to watch, what things to
Mm-hmm.
buy.
Mm-hmm.
So it turns that into yeah. I mean, how do you emasculate a masculine man? Make him wear a dress, make him wear a wig, make him wear something, you know.
I got some comments, man. My man says, "Have you ever noticed that gay dudes in the West cop block gay dudes in the Philippines? Even if you are a stranger and you try to be a wingman, you're always their female friends." Or there's I don't think I read that right. Do you see the comment on? I'm
I see
trying.
the comment. Hold on, let me get it
I'm,
close to my face here
I'm yeah.
to back
I'm
up.
trying to
So
read it.
ever notice alphabet dudes in the West cock black?
I
Okay,
don't know if
I
I'm
have
reading.
seen that. I have seen that happen,
Hmm.
but that's a problem as well. If the alphabet dude is winging for you for his girlfriend, that's because he wants you around, close proximity to him because he likes you. So you better
Big
watch out
facts.
because that hands might hit your
Yeah.
back by the behind. The first thing ever you do if you're hanging around with a bunch of girls, if you approach the girls and they have a gay best friend, what you do is you do the right thing by winging for him and find him a gay dude, and then he
Somebody.
leaves you because he's entertained. Now you're among the women, and it's the thing though is like if your job is just to sleep with one of the girls, then fine, have him around. It don't really matter, but learn how to fucking control him. And the thing is, if you control him, like show him, like hey, stop it, sit, go over there, don't fuck with me. Like they're gonna listen to that, and the girls are gonna enjoy that because you're making fun of him. Because the gay dude is the comedic person of the group that people will make fun of. So you have to learn how to handle the crowd as much as possible. You know, like if a gay dude's acting too, I'm sorry, if the alphabet dude is acting too alphabet around you, call him out. Be like, you know, bakla ka talaga, you know, whatever. Go over there and go find yourself a dude to like get on your knees with, you know, and then like make fun of him and tell the girls, be like, hey girls, help me find him you know, somebody to hang around with.
And
the girls will go around be like, oh my God, that's so nice, that's so good, let's go find him something. Yeah, you go with him, find him something. I'll stay around with the girls. Like, you have to learn how to control the room as much as possible when you're around as much as possible.
If you can't avoid it. Very true. If you can't avoid it, control it. Because they get out of pocket real quick if you let them. And they like anything, man. They go as far as you allow them to get away with it. Because they'll be the laughing, the happy person around you, wanting to play, like you said, the female role around you, and a bunch of girls like, oh, no, motherfucker, no. But it's true, but it's hard for you to tell a girl, yo, that, how can I say this? A lot of them aren't willing to do things without this person for some god awful fucking reason. I know. They have to have this person around. They just have to. Most of them. But then those are the ones that you have to just say, if that's the case, you gotta check the deuces and keep it pushing. I would, because I don't see no benefit in it.
Heck, who do you think taught the girls in the strip clubs or the go-go bars to dance? Not a girl.
Big facts. My man says, I know a dude that is alphabet as hell when sober. He is disgusted by females' bodies. He is disgusted, by females' bodies. When drunk, he's straight, and he'll be all over females, and he has 3 kids.
Is he from Atlanta?
Gotta be from the A. You know what's funny though? When I was in school, one of the physical education coaches or the teachers, definitely, you couldn't tell me otherwise, Mike. I mean, every sign on planet Earth will tell you that this man right here is about that life. 2 kids and a wife. I know it's a front. There's no other way it could be, but then again, maybe I'm wrong. But then again, I do believe that it had to be this way because you're working for a Catholic school. More or less, don't ask, don't tell. that's basically what it is. If I ain't asking, you ain't telling. My man, dude, one of my other teachers come to school full blown makeup and everything, bro. He had a short haircut and everything. Don't ask, don't tell. He had a job there and everything. It was something else. I wish I could share those stories, but if people know where I went to school at, they'd be like, "Yo, you talking about so and so?" That's why I try not to say names. But yeah, this is tough. My man's. He says too many women over there to settle for one whose best friend is suspect.
They ain't suspect though, because they be showing.
They ain't
a sus. They're not no sus because they be showing it. It's happening a mile away.
But it is what it is, man. It's tough. At this point in time, you'll start to realize that it ain't worth it, bro. It's not worth it.
Yeah, it's not.
I'm sorry, I'm reading comments. Talking about alcohol, I see. But anyways, man, Mike, this was a great show, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out what else we can talk about. We've touched on it as best we can. I don't feel like we could drag this bitch on anymore, man.
Well, yeah. Well, for the ones that streamed in a little bit later and stuff like that, because you guys probably walking like, when we're talking about feminine stuff, then why are we talking about gay stuff? I mean, there's some 2 different things, but just hitting back in the points is that Filipino, for me wise, a lot of Filipino men do have the because they will dress right, they'll proper right, but that doesn't mean that they're very feminine. But there are the ones who are there that for some reason didn't understand that that's just a camouflage to be able to get with a woman. Some guys think that they have to really be it, but they're not acting when they're. That's why they end up in the friend zone. That's why it's funny how many Filipinas, and I'm talking about. What I want to be clear here is I want to say good-looking Filipinas, and I'm talking about 6s, 7s, 8s, to 10s have lots of male friends around them. Is because these guys are in that feminine, metrosexual field, but it's because they get put in the friend zone and they're hoping for the next at bats. So, that's one thing. But Filipino men are very masculine in their own way. It's just we have to understand it's a different culture, and don't let the outside fool you because they be doing drive-bys in Chicago and LA and all that stuff. You mess with a Filipino, no matter what he looks, trust me, he ain't gonna shoot you because he can't have a gun, but he'll straight up shank you. I mean, when Filipino guys get into fights, they will get into fights. You have to be careful because Filipinos can get triggered really fast, in the wrong areas. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I feel you, man. All right. My man says, I've seen feminine Filipinas that can literally fight. Yes. Oh, trust me. Oh, they fight. They definitely fight. I've seen some that can kick some ass. I ain't even gonna cap. But anyways, man. If for those that did catch us a little bit later on, like I said, the topic where we started out, guys, is why you would probably see more, like I said, feminine Filipino guys more often than not. We talked about the characteristic traits that come from being raised by their mothers or being mama's boys. We talked about how the metrosexual nature of men and celebrities and things like that have kind of created a society of certain guys, not all of them, that kind of just come out looking and or being a certain type of way. And I think we're good, bro.
Awesome,
Unless you
man.
got any final thoughts, man, I'm about to get the hell up out of here.
I'm good,
All
man.
right.
It's just I've been watching like my old videos because I'm reposting them. So it's just funny
Mm-hmm.
how like there's a few things I'm going to be end up talking about that I'm like, you know what? Because of my, from me starting the stuff to 9 months later, I'm like, there's a couple changes I want to talk about. So I'm gonna have to like be doing that in those videos. But no, man, this was a good conversation. I think guys should be able to hear this kind of stuff.
My man says, shoot, in the Philippines, you're more likely to get into a fight yelling with a, I don't know. I've never been in a fight with no no yelling match with a dude, bro. All right, so this man has got to have his shine. He says, Doc, why do you cape for Filipinos so hard? Are they that great? It's not so much that I feel as though they're better than anybody else. I just spent a long time around them and I got a chance to really get to know the culture and society. And as a result, I can honestly say that I'm happy with what I saw. So happy to the point that I feel like it's worth it to share it on a YouTube channel. That's pretty much it. I mean, if you spend enough time around a group of people, you'll know if you fuck with them or you don't, right? And I can honestly say I like my Filipino people, man. I've been able to create great relationships, great connections, great situations, not just with women, but just with the people in general, man. There's some dope ass people over there. I'm talking about people who will feed you for no fucking reason. They'll see you on the street and it's lunchtime, and they'll be like, "Oh, are you hungry?" Bite you into your place. Where in the world you gonna see that shit? Not in the
Not in
United States,
America.
man. You think somebody gonna just fucking drag you off the street if they see you just walking around and ask you if you're hungry? You think you're relative? Well, unless they are your blood, do you think somebody's literally just gonna drop off lumpia and rice and some whatever they had whatever they had for lunch just to make sure that you ate? Just drop the shit over at the house because they were thinking about you and they wanted to make sure that you had food, whether you take the food or not. There are certain places you can get that in, and that Philippines is definitely one of them. So the hospitality is second to none for the most part. In general, man, they really are dope people. The women, not too bad to look at, in my personal opinion. So if you wonder why I cape for the Filipino people so hard, man, that's pretty much it. I fuck with them because they fuck with me. They are genuinely good people. They don't, you gonna have your bad apples. I mean, shit, that comes with the territory. But overall, that's me, man. That's how I feel. My man says we ain't seen nothing till we go to Thailand. Mike, have you been to Thailand? I know I haven't been, but I'll go. I'll be all right. You'll eventually get. He said, just be yourself, fellas, no matter where you lay your head. Otherwise, you're eventually gonna get exposed. Okay. All right. He says, learn some hand-to-hand combat skills, bro. I'm not looking to go to the Philippines and fight nobody. That's why. That's why the Filipino people around me can fight, so I don't have to. I mean, shit. You keep the right people around you, they'll go to bat for you for just like you're your blood, like they are your blood. So, for me, I'm not really pressed by that. He said, "Can you?" I'm not going to share with you guys the coconut story again. Everybody knows my Filipino coconut story, and it's the greatest story of all times. Chick climbs a tree for you to get you some buko, my friend. That's a love story, my guy. That shit's written in stone, man. I'm telling you. I can't share it again, but if you were able to hear it, you know exactly where I'm coming from. Because if you find them, that's they are second to none, man. It's like it was poetry in motion, man. Chick climb that
I
tree
mean,
with
just think about it, right? Just the vision stuff. The coconuts and
right.
balls in the top, right? The coconut tree is the shaft and stuff like that. So
Stop.
this girl's able to climb up a coconut to grab, a coconut tree to grab some coconuts and able to
Let's
play with
go.
that sucker and drop it down.
It
That's got
definitely
to be
has
some
double
good woman
meaning.
right there.
It definitely has double meaning if you look at it. Because for those that don't know, those coconut trees don't grow straight up. But sometimes they grow up and to the side. So it kind of, you know what? Let me not. I'm not gonna go there. But
Just
yeah,
saying,
man,
man. It's like, just saying.
it was from the heart, man. It is what it is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate the time, appreciate the effort. Mike, appreciate you joining us over here. It's
Yes,
always
sir.
fun. Definitely a good time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, unless you guys have anything else to say, I'm ready to check out, man. So with that being said, guys, we're officially out and catch us on the next one, man. Take care.
Take care.
Peace.
That was good, man.
Yeah. Hold on. Hold on. That thing ended yet?